Welcome back. So let's take a look at inventory's effect on accounts payable. Let's take a look at inventory effect through what's called DIO, days inventory outstanding, and DPO, days payable outstanding. And then we'll conclude with the cash conversion cycle. So jumping in, we're looking at DIO, DPO, cash conversion. So we take a look. We know about gross profit margin. We've been calculating this. Net sales less cost of sales or cost of goods sold is gross profit. And we've got a gross profit margin, but we have inventories and payables that have a relationship as well. So inventories relate to cost of goods sold or cost of sales. So what negatively impacts our gross profit margin? So when does it go down? Well, if we have a different product mix, we might have some lower margin items and some higher. We sell more lower margin stuff, gross profit percentage is going to go down. Or we have new products introduced trying to penetrate the market, and we might start off with lower prices. Increase in production costs, we might have either increase in labor, might have an increase in materials. Things are rising. We had lumber go nuts not too long ago. It's coming back down. We had gas go nuts not too long ago. It's coming back down, but still high. Increases in supply chain, transportation, technology, insurance. All these costs are part of the costs associated with inventory. It's also when that goes up, the cost of goods sold goes up. When our cost of goods sold goes up, our gross profit goes down. You might be doing more discounting, selling. You might be hearing about some of the retailers like Target is going out there and giving stuff away. Not quite, but they're dropping prices to get rid of older stock that isn't selling. Obsolescence and overstocking tends to happen with a lot of clothing. If you don't have stuff on the shelf, you can't sell it. But if you sell stuff out, now you're short stock. But if you have too much stock, now you have the goods on the shelf to sell, but maybe they don't all sell. Warranty costs. You probably remember when Microsoft getting major hits when their Xbox came out. Their power supplies were defective. Virtually every Xbox that went out the door and is used was overheating and power supplies, and Xboxes had to be returned, new power supplies put in. They didn't budget for that kind of warranty cost. They might have said, well, 5%, 7%. They weren't expecting everybody to return their Xboxes. Decline in economic activity, economic conditions, new competitors. Somebody else comes in and does it faster, better, cheaper. They steals market share. And then regulations, federal or state, add fees, taxes, and it has an impact. So these are all factors that can negatively. There are things that obviously can affect it positively as well. But let's talk about inventory turnover. This is one of those formulas that I'm going to ask you to memorize and to know. We have our income statement item in the numerator. We have our balance sheet item in the denominator. And the balance sheet item has to take an average because we have an income statement item to put with it. So we have our cost of goods sold and our average inventory. Another way to remember that, I'm going to do a quick whiteboard for you, is when you look at the actual cost of goods sold, they tend to go up, up, and up. You look at inventory, it tends to go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. The larger number is going to be in the numerator. Cost of goods sold will be in the numerator, where inventory will be in the denominator. So if I have $100 million worth of cost of goods sold and $10 million average inventory, don't forget our average, I'm going to have a turnover of 10 times a year. 10 times a year. That means, excuse me, if I divide 365 by 10, you get about every 36, almost just over a month. On average, my inventory sells out 100%. Now, some of it will sell in 20 days, some of it will last 5 days, some of it will be 90 days, and some of it will still be there after a year. But on average, 36 and a half days. So you think this number is better to be bigger or smaller? Well, if it's a larger number, like 12 times, 15 times, maybe 20 times, that means 18 days I sell my stuff. So typically, yeah, it's nicer to have a bigger inventory turnover, meaning my stuff is moving out the door faster. Two ways to get bigger: is I have more cost of goods sold, or I have smaller inventory. Well, that's a cool trick. Cut down the size of my inventory. What's going to happen? My ratio is going to go higher, and I'm going to be shining on my turnover. Well, what happens if I shrink my inventory too much? Well, I don't have stuff on the shelf to sell. I keep using Walmart milk, but if you go to Walmart and you want to get a gallon of milk and there's none on the shelf, you either buy the cartons of the other stuff they have that's jumped in price, or you go over to IGA, or you go over to Food Lion, grab a gallon of milk on your way. Because you need milk, you got to get milk. And if they don't have it at Walmart, you'll get it somewhere else. That is a lost sale. They're never going to get you back to buy that gallon of milk that week. You might 3-4 weeks down, get another gallon of milk from them, but you're probably not going back to get the milk that they wanted you to sell originally. So here's our inventory turnover. And then our days was, we just did that quick calculation, 365 by 10 was ours. So 365 divided by the inventory turnover, which is also the way I'm calculating this out. Rather than average days inventory outstanding, you do the 365 times the average inventory divided by cost of goods sold. I just like taking 360. I like taking 2 calculations. Makes it easier to see for me anyways, that, okay, I can figure out this cost of goods sold over average inventory. Good. Step 1. Step 2, divide that into 365, and that's the number of days. We're good to go. So Home Depot, how do they do? And be careful, they have the 53rd week. So their days are ending at interesting times. So they have an extra week's worth of sales. That's an extra 2%. By the way. Want to compare inventory turnover with days inventory outstanding across the year. First adjust for the 53rd week. So we had to adjust, take out a week's worth and make that adjustment on cost of goods sold to be consistent. Interpreting. All right. Important for 2 reasons. Inventory quality, product mix, higher margin. Company can change promotional policies. So maybe we're advertising different things. And again, we're trying to promote the higher margin stuff. Company can realize improvements in manufacturing efficiency and lower investments in materials and inventory. So we can have additional efficiencies to go with that. But the other is asset utilization. Eliminating bottlenecks, being more efficient, and something called just-in-time inventory, just-in-time deliverables. Remember when we said we had billions of dollars sitting in inventory? And a retailer really can't do much with just in time, but a manufacturer can. As a matter of fact, that's where, if you might have heard a guy named Deming, he was laughed out of Detroit, went over to Japan, and he was a father essentially of the auto industry in Japan. One of the things he did, it was 0 defects. There was a bunch of things associated with efficient and effective operations. TQM, total quality management, that up would be kind of interesting. But one of the things you do with inventory is just in time. So it says, I need perfect inventory every time, just in time when I need it. So I don't have to stock engines. I don't have to stock tires. I don't have to stock batteries. But when I get a battery from you, I want them perfect. So let's say Toyota says, I'm making 100 cars tomorrow. On my loading dock at 5 a.m., I need 100 batteries, I need 400 tires, I need 100 engines. Toyota's not paying for that inventory until they get it. They don't have to stock it. They don't have to put it on the shelf. They don't have to ship it anywhere. They don't have to go get it and risk dropping it and losing it and breaking it. They're going to get 100 batteries in as they need them. What happens when one of those batteries is dead? Well, they now have 99 cars they produced and can go out the door, and 1 car sitting there needing a battery. So that's when the quality came in saying, well, we need almost 100% quality control. We need no defects. We need it coming in tight to spec, and we are going to be able to have 100 cars made. So they're reducing their inventory costs drastically, and they're having their suppliers make up the difference. And if the supplier only ships them 50 batteries, they're probably going to be looking for a new supplier. So this asset utilization stuff and just-in-time inventory really can be major cost savings and majorly more effective. They don't have to have a building full of batteries, building full of tires. They're just getting it loading dock, they're going down the assembly line, and they're done. We're looking at days payable outstanding. Something similar. We have average accounts payable, not average inventory in the denominator. So we still have our cost of goods sold, or income statement item in the numerator, but we now take average accounts payable. And this is basically average time to pay. How many times do we turn over our payables in that same period? And if we go take a look at Home Depot, and we did have to adjust for that extra week, but the average is 9.29 times a year, 39.3 days. Slightly longer than a 30-day payment term. They're typical. And that's actually for receivables and payables. It's usually a little bit longer than term. Not everybody pays on time. And for some reason, we're not always paying on time either. Delaying payment supplies allow the purchasing company to increase its available cash. You want to manage your cash flow. You want to hold on to the cash as long as you can, pay it out as needed. Because you got to pay your employees, you got to pay your rent, you got to pay your suppliers. But they have terms, you take advantage of those terms. So what's the cash conversion cycle? So we have our receivables, day sales outstanding. Remember receivable turnover? We had that receivables, which was the income statement item of net sales, the balance sheet item of average AR. That was the turnover. And then we divide that into 365. We got the number of days for our DSO, day sales outstanding. We just calculated our DIO, add that, and subtract our payables outstanding. And now we have a cash conversion cycle. How many days it takes to convert. And they take the calculation here for Home Depot past 3 years, and they're saying, oh, total was 40.3. It's getting speeding up, tightening up, convert to cash, going to be in better shape. So a lower days inventory outstanding is usually preferable. It can get too low, and you don't have inventory on the shelf, but it does mean normally inventory is sold more quickly, and the company realizes more cash flow based on a faster turnover. And the effective cash flow, change in days inventory outstanding, holding inventory for 4.1 fewer days, cash inflow of 747.5 million, just 4 odd days of inventory, turning it over faster. Pretty significant stuff, pretty high value that you want to be aware of. So that takes care of inventory, that takes care of payables, and that gives you the cash conversion cycle that we're working with. Thank you for listening. See you again shortly.